Now, you're in for a treat. Sam Richter is one of the world's foremost experts on sales intelligence. He created innovative technology, sales, and marketing programs for startup companies and some of the world's most famous brands. His powerful Know More program, which he will share with you today, teaches valuable tools and tricks that will help improve your marketing and sales strategies. You will learn how to use sales intelligence to help you build more meaningful relationships with your own clients and prospects. Please welcome Sam Richter.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's such an honor to be with you today. It's such a privilege to be invited to Malaysia and to the $1 Million Roundtable. First off, I'd like to congratulate all of you on your success for being one of the top financial services professionals in the entire world. When you think about what you do for a living, you manage the dreams of your clients. Whether that dream is sending a child to college, whether that dream is retiring, buying a home, buying a car, whatever it might be, buying a business. You are the chief financial officer of your families. So I want to thank you on behalf of all of your clients. Today I'm honored to bring you my Know More program. How to find information in ways you never thought possible and then use that information to deepen those relationships with your prospects, to identify highly qualified leads, and to provide value, relevant value to your clients. And as we learned this morning from our speakers, the way to differentiate yourself from your competition is by providing that ongoing value. So I want you to ask yourself a question. Have you ever made that sales call, that life-changing sales call? Maybe it was the owner of a business. You have the opportunity to manage that individual's money. Maybe it was a job interview. How many of you have ever had that life-changing, if you're successful on this phone call, on this sales meeting, on this presentation, your future is going to be completely different? I'm going to share with you some stories today on how that happened to me. And then I'm going to give you some examples on how you can use the techniques I'll share with you today in your life and in your business. So I'm going to say something rather profound, see if you agree with me. The internet has changed the way that we do business. The internet has changed the way we do business as financial advisors, as insurance agents. Would you agree with that? Yes. But I'm not talking about CRM systems, portfolio management systems, online trading. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the traditional role of advisor and client. What percentage of your clients, of your prospects, are going to search on you, are going to Google you before a meeting? Think about how our world has changed. How old is Google? Does anybody know how old Google is? 15 years old. 15 years. How old is this? The concept of a smartphone. Does anybody know how old a smartphone is? 6 years old. Think about how our world has changed in just the last 6 years. It's estimated that in this machine, in this little machine right here, I can pull up every printed word, every video file, every audio file ever created by anybody at any time. There is more computing power in a device that fits in my pocket than all of the computers that put the first man on the moon. Now, if we think about how the internet has changed our world as an advisor to our clients, if we go back 15 years, 16 years, how many of you have been in this business for more than 15 years? Remember those days 15 years, 16 years ago when you took prospects out for a lunch, for a 2-hour lunch, or you spent a lot of time with them? How many of you get to spend that amount of time with your prospects and clients? We don't get that today because our prospects don't need to learn about us. Our prospects already know about us before we walk in the room. Our prospects have already Googled us. They think they know everything there is to know about us. They've gone out to their social networks and asked their friends about you. They've gotten reviews about you. So prospects today have what I call buyer's intelligence. It's estimated that 93% of our prospects have already Googled us before we walk in the room for that first meeting. So what's your excuse for not having sales intelligence? For understanding what's going on in the other person's world before you walk in the room? Their work background, their educational history, their family history. What's your excuse for not knowing that information? So I want you to think about the last time that you met with a prospect, somebody you didn't know before. Maybe they were an owner of a small business, a family-run business. How well did you know their company? Was their company growing in size? Was their company decreasing in size? Were they adding staff? Were they laying off staff? Were they adding product lines? Were they laying off product lines? How about the individual? Their work background, their family history, where they like to donate their time, where they like to donate their money. What are their hobbies? Do they have children? What are their children like? I would argue if you don't know the answers to those questions before you walk in the room, you're winging it a little bit. You're making it up. So how many of us have walked in and we've gone into a meeting, we're meeting with someone, we're just not fully prepared for that meeting? We all do it. So the question we want to answer today is, could our businesses be better with access to better information? Now I'm going to start us out by showing a quick video. This is a video of a business owner, and she has incredible access to information. Now she's not a financial advisor, she's not an insurance agent, a wealth manager. She actually owns a pizza store. She'd be a great client for any one of you. So let's see how a pizza store owner can run her job better when she has access to better information.
Pizza Palace, guaranteed hot in 30 minutes or it's free. This is Mary. May I take your order?
Hi, Mary. Yes, I'd like to order.
Is this Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you for calling again, sir. I show your national identification number as 610-204-999-8-45-54610. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I see you live at 736 Montrose Court, but you're calling from your cell phone. Are you at home?
I'm just leaving work, but I'm...
Oh, we can deliver to Bob's Auto Supply. That's at 175 Lincoln Avenue, yes?
No, I'm on my way home. How do you know all this stuff?
We just got wired into the system, sir.
Oh, well, I'd like to order a couple of your double meat special pizzas.
Sure thing. There'll be a new $20 charge for those, sir.
What do you mean?
Sir, the system shows me that your medical records indicate that you have high blood pressure and extremely high cholesterol. Luckily, we have a new agreement with your national health care provider that allows us to sell you double meat pies as long as you agree to waive all future claims of liability.
What?
Do you agree, sir? You can sign the form when we deliver, but there is a charge for processing. The total is $67 even.
$67?
Well, that includes the delivery surcharge of $15 to cover the added risk to our driver of traveling through an orange zone.
I live in an orange zone?
Now you do. Looks like there was another robbery on Montrose yesterday. You could save $48 if you ordered our special Sprout Submarine Combo and picked it up yourself. Comes with tofu sticks. Those are very tasty, sir. Good value, too.
But I want double meat.
Well, I'm sure you can afford the $67 then. You just bought those tickets to Hawaii. They weren't cheap, eh? Oh, but I see you checked out the budget beach bum at the library last week. Up to you, sir.
All right. I'll get the Sprout subs.
Good choice, sir. Gotta watch that waist if you're hitting the beach, eh? 42 inches. Wow. Man, I'd say tofu and sprouts is like required.
That's how much?
Just between you and me, there's a $3 off coupon in this month's Total Men's Fitness magazine. Your wife Betty subscribes to that, right? Anyhow, clip that and it's $19.99 even. Whoa, looks like you maxed out on all your credit cards. Bring cash, okay?
Oh, that's a little extreme. Maybe. You know, there's this incredible world of information out there. This room has wireless internet access. There's literally trillions of pieces of data floating around our heads right now. The question is, how do we take data and translate that into information? How do we take information and translate that into knowledge? And how do we take knowledge and act on that knowledge to grow our business? And that's what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to learn is I'm going to spend maybe 5 minutes on what I call the theory of the fourth R. And then we're going to dive in. I'm going to put you through what's called 4th R University. how to find information in ways you never thought possible. How many of you here have teenage children? How many of you think your children are smarter than you on how to use the internet? I guarantee you, you will walk out of here smarter than your children on how to use computers. Guarantee that. But so what? So you are smarter than a fifth grader on how to use the internet. How do we actually use the fourth R to identify highly qualified leads? And then I'm going to put us through a real-world case study where we're going to pretend that we have a client meeting, and I'm going to show you the types of information that you can find. Now, I violate all rules of presentations. Typically in a workshop, if you're going to use slides, the experts will tell you that you should have 30 slides. I will get through my 304 on time. So what I've done is I've created a guidebook for all of you, and you can go to this website. I'll put it up later as well, samrichter.com/Asia. Just type in your email address, and you can download the instruction manual on how to practice, how to implement everything I'm going to share with you today. And feel free to share this guide with everybody on your team. And go to the guide, download it once or twice a year, because I continually keep it updated with the latest techniques. So feel free to take notes today, but don't feel pressure if you miss something. Don't worry about it. The guidebook has the step-by-step instructions on how to practice everything I'm going to share with you today. So when we think about 21st century success as an advisor, as a financial advisor, a wealth manager, an agent, I like to talk about that we have to understand the basic concepts. We've all gone to school learning that if we master the basic concepts of reading, writing, and arithmetic, we can communicate effectively, we understand the math, that we're going to be successful in business. This is what we all learned at university. Master communication, master math, and you'll be successful in business. Well, I argue in today's world, where again there's trillions of pieces of data floating around our head, we have to become masters of research. Now, you don't have to become a librarian, but you do have to understand how to use these amazingly powerful tools that have been given to us. Like I mentioned earlier, we've had Google for 15 years. How many of you have ever read the manual on how to use Google? I don't expect to see any hands because there's no such thing. There is no manual on how to use Google. It just dropped into our lap and we're expected to use it. Social networks like Facebook and LinkedIn, there's no manual, just here it is, and we're expected to know how to use it. Today, I'm going to give you the manual, because when you have research, you get the fourth R. The first one is relationships. We are in the relationship business. Listen, your clients, if they want an insurance policy, they can go online and buy it, probably less expensively than they can purchase it through you. But they don't want to do that. They want a relationship with you. As I mentioned earlier, you are their chief financial officer. You are the manager of their dreams. So it's about relationships. It's about resilience. Most of us don't get a signed contract after the first meeting. How do we stay in touch with prospects in ways that are meaningful to what they care about? Referrals. We learned earlier from Bill Cates about referrals. But I would say most of us ask for referrals incorrectly. I'm going to show you some better ways, more effective ways to ask for referrals. And relevance. The final R is relevance, because that's what's really most important. If you want to grow your practice, if you want to get those referrals, if you want to provide the best value, you must be relevant to what the other person cares about. It's not about you. It's not about your product. It's about changing somebody's life. Understanding what's important to the other person. Do they have a family-run business, but none of their children are interested in running the business? Are they an executive that's looking to retire? You have to understand the other person and what they care about. That's how you can provide maximum value. I'm going to show you how to find answers to many of the questions of what's important to your clients, what's important to your prospects before you even walk in the room. Now, this next quote is probably the most important part excuse me, of the entire presentation. If you forget everything else, if you can remember this, you'll serve your clients better. And it's quite simple. Nobody cares how much you know. They don't. Nobody cares how much you know. They don't care about your expertise in financial services. They don't care about your expertise in products. They don't care about any of that until they know how much you care. Once you show the other person, once you show your prospects and your clients that you care, you genuinely and authentically care about their success, that's when you do the best job. That's when you have permission to show them your products. But until you show your clients and your prospects that you care about them, you're a commodity. And my definition of a commodity is I can get it somewhere else less expensively than I can get it from you. We have to show people that we care, and we do that by having better information. Because everybody on the planet, there's, 20, 30 different countries represented here. Every single one of you are amazingly passionate about one thing. What is it? It's yourself. All of us care about ourselves. We are amazingly passionate about ourselves. So why, when we go to a prospect meeting, or even an existing client meeting, we talk about ourselves, we talk about our products, we talk about our firm? You know what? Your clients don't care. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. How do we get the right information so we can talk about the other person? So that's the theoretical part of today's program. Does that make sense to everybody? Now we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you how to get that information. We're going to put you through what I call 4th R University. And we're actually going to start out in Google University. And we're actually going to start out in Google Kindergarten. So I'm going to teach you some of the basics. So some of you might know the basics, but we're going to quickly get a high school degree, a college degree, a master's degree, and even a PhD on how to use this amazingly powerful search engine. So Google Kindergarten, Google Basics. What is Google? Google's really nothing more than a big vacuum cleaner. So imagine a vacuum cleaner going around the internet, and what it's doing is it's looking for websites with words on the page. When Google finds a website with words on the page, it flips on the vacuum cleaner, it sucks up those words, stores those words in the vacuum cleaner bag or the database, and when you go into Google and type in 1, 2, or 3 words, all that's happening is Google saying, where do those 3 words appear most often on the internet? Here you go. There's no human being saying, this site's better than that site. There's no librarian that runs the internet. So the key to effective Google searching is math. It's a mathematical equation. You may have heard the term Boolean logic by a mathematician named George Boole. Let me show you some of the basics. The first one's a plus sign. So if I'm looking for insurance and retirement, now insurance could be in the first paragraph, retirement could be in the 40th paragraph, I put in a plus, a space before and after the plus. And I'm telling the search engine that both of those words must appear somewhere on the page. Now, technically, you really don't need to put in the plus sign, but understand that Google's doing that for you. As a matter of fact, next time you're in Google, conduct a search without the plus sign, watch the web address change, and you'll see that Google actually puts in a plus sign. So when I search, I actually put in the plus sign because it helps me think mathematically. Now the next one is or in all uppercase. Do I want this or do I want that? Am I interested in investment or am I interested in insurance? By typing OR in all uppercase, I'm telling the search engine I want one or both of those words. I expand my search. Now, if you put OR in lowercase, what happens is you're telling the search engine, give me every website in the world with the word or in it. So you'll get millions of results. So make sure you put the OR in all uppercase, a space before and after the or, and you're telling the search engine, I want one or both of those. Now the next one is super powerful, is the minus sign. Do any of you search with the minus sign? Show of hands, any of you? The minus sign acts as a filter. It allows you to remove bad results. Let me show you what I mean. So I go into Google and I type in the word insurance. And I get a number of results. Now I'm looking for life insurance. But what's showing up, I'm seeing a lot of information on car or automobile insurance. What can I do? I can use the minus sign to remove that word, remove any result with that word in it from my result list. So if I go up and do insurance minus car. Now the magic trick is the minus sign must be attached to the word that you want to remove. No space. So insurance minus car, attach the minus sign to the word, and Google will say, here's every website in the world with the word insurance in it, but if any of them have the word car in it, we're not going to show you that. Now, if you look at the results carefully, again, I'm looking for life insurance. What am I getting? Health insurance. I don't want that. What can I do? Go right back up and add another minus sign. So give me every result in the world with the word insurance in it, but if any of them have the word car in it, I don't want to see that. If any of them have the word health in it, I don't want to see that. You can use the minus sign about 30 different times. So you look at the results, you're like, nope, I'm not interested in that. Right back up, minus, get a new result list. Quotation marks, very important. Anytime you're searching for a proper noun, name of a person, name of a company, use quotation marks, you'll get better results. Let me show you what I mean. If I'm searching for the woman Karen Jane Anderson, what did we just learn? If I go into Google and type in Karen Jane Anderson, Google thinks I mean Karen plus Jane plus Anderson. All three of those words must appear somewhere on the page, but in no particular order. And as you can see, I get nearly 4 million search results. A simple trick, like putting the name within quotation marks, now I'm telling the search engine the words within quotation marks must be in that exact order every single time. So anytime I'm looking for a proper noun, name of a person, name of a company, or even a phrase like annual annuity, life insurance, put it in quotes, you'll get much better results. So that was Google Kindergarten. Was that helpful to you? Okay, now let's move on to the fun stuff. Let's move on to high school a little bit. How do we actually use these techniques? I'm going to build now what I call a complex Boolean query. So I'm looking to build my business. I want to go find out who are the presidents or the director of a company called Malakoff Corporation. So notice the Boolean query that I'm building. I put Malakoff Corporation within quotes because I want to treat that company name as a proper noun. And then I say, well, Google, so every result must have the phrase Malakoff Corporation. It must have the word president or the word director, one or both of those. And the word Malaysia must be in every search result. When I run the Google search, I get some pretty good results. But what word is showing up that I don't want? Remember, I'm looking for names of people. I'm looking for job titles. What's showing up? Employment. Employment listings. I don't want that. Okay, based on what we just learned, what can we do? That's right, minus employment. I go right back up, I do minus employment, and Google says, well, why didn't you tell me you were looking for names of people? And it delivers me much better results. I'm looking for Karen Anderson. She's a teacher in Toronto or Edmonton. Not really sure. I run a search, and I get a bunch of results related to university. I don't want university. What do? I go right back up, minus university. I get the results that I'm interested in. So knowing these little tips, these tricks, will cut your searching time down from hours to minutes. And you'll start getting the results you want showing up the first time on the first page every time. How many of you suffer from amnesia? You go to an event like this, you just can't remember things. I do. You know, you go to an event and you meet with somebody, maybe they don't have a business card, and you think to yourself, oh, I'll remember their name. And then you go back to your hotel room, you want to Google the person, you want to search the person's name, you can't remember who it is, can you? Well, I have a cure for that. I call it temporary amnesia assistance. Google calls it a wild card or an asterisk. Anytime you can't remember a piece of information, drop in an asterisk, and Google will fill in the blanks for you. So I met this guy, Eugene something. It's a company name, Eugene something Cement. I know they're in Korea. I just can't remember the last name of the company. It's a two-word name, and I know I just drop in, I put in an asterisk, Google fills in the blanks for me. Anytime you can't remember a piece of information, put in an asterisk, Google fills in the blanks for me. Google, find me all of the directors at Fuji Television. Give me a list of the directors at Fuji Television. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not hacking into Fuji Television's employee directory. I can show you how to do that. It's just a way more expensive presentation than what we have today. Instead, what I'm telling Google, go find me web pages where the job title, something director at Fuji Television exists. Notice how I put the entire job title within quotation marks because I want to treat the job title like a proper noun. Where I don't know the piece of information, I drop in an asterisk, Google fills in the blanks for me. So knowing these simple techniques will cut your searching time down from hours to minutes and start getting you the information that you want showing up on top. I love this next trick. In fact, I would say the reason I have the honor to be in front of you today is because of this Google search technique. Let me share with you a story. Now, what I recommend to all of you, we all have mobile devices. Anytime before you meet with a prospect or even a client, take out your mobile device 10 minutes before the meeting and Google the company name. Type in the company, because what we want to do is we want to find a piece of information that's important to them. What's going on in their world? Because remember, our clients are amazingly passionate about one thing. What is it? Themselves. Themselves. So how can we find a piece of information about our prospects or our client's company, or even about our prospect, so the first words out of our mouth are about them rather than us? So I'm meeting with Allianz, one of our gold sponsors today, our gold sponsor. I have an opportunity to meet with a gentleman named Tom Burns. Tom Burns is the #2 guy at Allianz North America. So I show up at Allianz's headquarters 10 minutes before our meeting. I do a Google search, Allianz North America, and I get the low number of 1.3 million results. Now I've got 10 minutes before my meeting. I don't have time to look at 1.3 million results. Now, of course, I've already looked at their homepage. I've already looked at the website. When you look at somebody's website, what are you really looking at? Their brochure. The only thing you see on somebody's website is what they want you to see. So, of course, you should do it, but that's the basic stuff. So I don't have time to look at 1.3 million search results. What do? How many of you have seen this button? It's on every single Google search result. Every single Google search result. Whether you're looking for a restaurant or whether you're looking for a company, it's on every search result. Click on it. 10 minutes prior to any meeting. So I get some news articles. Now, unfortunately, Allianz is a big company, so I get 2,340 news articles. Now, I only have 9 minutes before my meeting with Tom. I don't have time to read 2,340 news articles. What do? There's a little button on Google called Search Tools. Click on it. When you click the Search Tools button, one of your options is to sort your search results by date. So I can click on here, and I can say, only show me news articles from the last year, the last month, the last week, the last day, the last hour. And I click on the link, and I get one result. So in a matter of less than a minute, I've gone from millions of results, 1.3 millions of results, to 2,340 articles to one. And the article talks about that Allianz was just named Best Places to Work by Fortune magazine. Perfect. Tom comes down the big escalator at Allianz headquarters. He reaches out his hand. Sam, very nice to meet you. The first words out of my mouth. Tom, congratulations. What for? Didn't you get the news, Tom? No, what news? I said, well, Fortune magazine just named you best places to work. He said, really? When? I said, 6 minutes ago. I did the little Google thing in the car before I walked in the room. But what have I done? Within the first 30 seconds of our meeting, what have I done? I've showed Tom that I care about him. And I've gained an incredibly important word, and that word is permission. We've all been taught that to connect with our prospects, we need to ask questions about them, don't we? We need to ask questions about the other person. But let me give you a little hint from someone who's a consumer of the financial services industry. You don't have permission to ask those questions. You don't have permission. How many of you, when you walk in and you're meeting with a prospect for the first time, after the first 2 or 3 minutes, you say something like, hey, how much money do you make? What are your goals? What are your core values? You don't have permission to ask those questions. But what have I just gained in the first 30 seconds? I've gained permission to ask Tom what's important to him. And of course, I read the article, and I already know that sales training is important to Tom. By the time we got to Tom's office, I asked him questions like, what makes this such a wonderful place to work? Why do you enjoy working here? Tom's showing me pictures of his children. The first 20 minutes of our conversation, Tom's doing all the talking. Matter of fact, he actually feels a little guilty. After about 20 minutes, he looks at me and he says, Sam, I'm so sorry. I've been doing all the talking. Tell me a little bit about you and how you might be able to help Allianz. This one meeting, after this meeting, Tom hired me. I did a lot of training for Allianz North America. They referred me to some of their best clients. Those clients referred me to some of their best clients. Those clients, one of those clients happened to serve on a committee at the $1 Million Roundtable. I was given the opportunity to give the pre-conference workshop in Philadelphia. I guess I did a good enough job to be invited in front of you today. None of that would have happened. Thank you. Thank you very much. None of that would have happened if I had gone in and talked about myself. But I went in and talked about Tom. I went in and talked about something I knew he was passionate about, his company. I had permission to ask great questions. Now this next trick is pretty neat, kind of scary. How many of you have ever downloaded a file from the internet? A PDF file, an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint document. We think nothing of it. Did you know that there are literally billions of files that people post online? Billions of them. How do we find them? You use a file type colon search. Where I have the letters Y, you replace that with the kind of file that you might be interested in. So if I'm looking for an Excel spreadsheet, I do file type colon XLS. If I'm looking for a Word document, file type colon DOC. What kind of Excel spreadsheets are out there that we might care about? Membership lists, attendee lists, lists of executives. What kind of Word documents might be out there? Proposals. So for some of you that might do corporate plans, you might find your competitors' sales proposals. Let me give you a few examples. This is just kind of a fun one because it's a little scary. I was looking for third-party administrators for retirement plans. I wanted a list of third-party administrators for retirement plans. I went into Google, I typed in third-party administrators. Now notice how I put that phrase within quotes because I want to treat that phrase like a proper noun. The word retirement. Let me back up. When Google finds a document, a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint document, it not only vacuums up the title of the document, it actually opens up the document itself, vacuums up all of the words inside the document. The document itself then becomes searchable. So the words within the Excel spreadsheet, within the Word document, within the PDF file actually become searchable themselves. So Google, find me an Excel spreadsheet where the phrase third-party administrators is somewhere in the Excel spreadsheet and the word retirement is somewhere in the Excel spreadsheet. I pulled up a number of results. And it kind of scares me when I see that word in the search result web address. Secure. Oh, really? If it's so secure, why was I able to find it in a Google search? I click on it, and here's a list of every third-party administrator in the entire United States, full contact information, including email address and phone number. If I'm searching for people, you know, there's a lot of these websites that try to sell you information on people. I skip all those. What I'm looking for is the name of a person inside a document. Maybe it's a news article. Maybe it's a sales proposal. Maybe it's an attendee list. Karen Anderson, I know she lives in Canada. So Google, go find me an Excel spreadsheet, a PDF file, or a Word document where somewhere inside any of those documents is the phrase Karen Anderson and the word Canada. And notice that every single one of my results, none of them are web pages. They're all documents with that individual's name somewhere inside the document. Let me tell you how I use these techniques to great effect. I was meeting one day. I had an opportunity to meet with a person named Lauren McCracken. Lauren McCracken. Lauren McCracken is the Chief Marketing Officer at a company called Jacobs Global Engineering, one of the largest engineering and design firms, architect firms, in the entire world. Billion-dollar company. I have the opportunity to meet with Lauren McCracken. Lauren's interested in potentially doing some sales training. Now, thank goodness I do a little bit of Googling 10 minutes before my meeting, because by Googling Lauren McCracken, I realized that it's a Mr. Lauren McCracken, not a Mrs. Lauren McCracken. So I avoid that embarrassment. I walk in, and I say, is Mr. McCracken available? Yes, he is. Now, Lauren's given me 45 minutes on his calendar. 45 minutes. He's down in Dallas. I made a long trip down there. I have 45 minutes on his calendar. Now, when I Googled Lauren McCracken, I not only found out he's the Chief Marketing Officer at Jacobs Global Engineering, I also found out he's one of the world's foremost watercolor painters. An incredible watercolor painter. So when we sat down for lunch, what was the first thing out of my mouth? Lauren. Now I'm going to say some words to you, because some of you might be sitting there saying, okay, this is kind of scary, Sam. How do I use this information without my prospects thinking that I'm a spy? Right? We don't want to scare people. Here are the techniques that I use. Lauren, you're a very busy individual. Before I meet with people, I like to do a little bit of homework. I want to make sure that everything I talk about today is relevant to what you might care about. And guess what I found? Let me break that down into two sections. The first section, Lauren, before I meet with people, I like to do a little bit of homework. I go on Google and research people. Because you're busy, and I want to make sure what we talk about today is relevant to what you might care about. Now, what happens when you think I do that? A, he doesn't feel scared anymore. He doesn't think I'm a spy. B, it shows that I care, that I took the time. I've differentiated myself from anybody else he's ever met with. Now, the next section that I say is also very important. When Lauren and I set our meeting up 3 weeks ago, he was like, sure, I'll meet with you. When Lauren saw my name on his calendar this morning, what was going through his head? Just like many of your prospects, when they see your name on their calendar in the morning, what's going through in their head? Why do I need to meet with this person? Why did I set up this meeting? How can I get out of it? Right? What do you think happens 100% of the time when I say to the person, Lauren, before I meet with people, I like to do a little bit of homework. I want to make sure I'm relevant to what you care about. And here's the magic phrase, and guess what I found? What happens every time when I say, and guess what I found? What'd you find? What'd you find? Well, Lauren, in Googling you, I found out that you're one of the world's foremost watercolor painters. That's amazing. Tell me about how do you become a watercolor painter? Now, the key here is I'm not using these techniques to manipulate Lauren. I'm not using these techniques to close a deal, to get a new client. I'm genuinely and authentically interested in him. When I find information like this on other people, I find this fascinating. I'm genuinely interested in his watercolor paintings. So when I say that to him, Lauren, before I meet with people, I like to do a little bit of homework. I want to make sure I'm relevant to what you care about. And guess what I found? Lauren, I see that you're one of the world's foremost watercolor painters. How does one become a watercolor painter? For the next 2.5 hours, Lauren and I talked about watercolor painting. He's talking about his family. He's sharing all of the fun things he's doing. Remember, I had 45 minutes on his calendar. His receptionist has already called twice trying to interrupt the meeting, and Lauren said to the receptionist, cancel those other meetings. I'm having too much fun. Now, near the end of our time together, I said to Lauren, do you have any fun things coming up? Do you have anything interesting coming up? He says, yes. In fact, I've been invited to China to exhibit my watercolors. I said, that's wonderful. I've been to China. He said, I'm terrified. I said, why? He said, well, as part of the deal to exhibit my watercolor paintings in China, I have to give the keynote address at the 2011, so this was a few years ago, the 2011 Chinese Watercolor Conference. I said, what's wrong with that? He said, I don't know anything about Chinese watercolors. I'm terrified. I made a mental note. Most of us, when we send a client a thank you note after we meet with them, it's a boring thank you note. Rajesh, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I look forward to serving you in the future. Boring. Here's what I do. I take a mental note of something the other person said. I go back and I do a Google search. This is the exact Google search that I did. Chinese watercolor, notice how I put it in quotes, plus techniques, file type : PDF. Why am I looking for a PDF file? Because if I don't add the file type : PDF, I'm going to pull up websites of companies, they're people that want to sell me Chinese watercolors. I don't want that. I want an article. I want a document, so I do file type : PDF. Now, sometimes you do get lucky. Here's the exact search results. Look what was number 1. I clicked on it. I downloaded it. It was the keynote address from the 2010 Chinese Watercolor Conference. What do? I send a note off to Lauren. Lauren, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I stumbled across this online and thought it might be helpful as you prepare for the 2011 Chinese Watercolor Conference. About a month later, Lauren called me up. He hired me. He referred me to his industry association. There were a number of people in that meeting that hired me. And this resulted in more than $100,000 worth of speaking revenue in just a couple of months, this one meeting. And I asked Lauren, I said, Lauren, when I sent you that document about the Chinese watercolor, I said, how did that make you feel? He said, Sam, I'm the chief marketing officer at one of the world's largest companies. I get calls from people like you all the time who want to sell me stuff. He said, in my entire career, you're the first person, and these were his exact words, you're the first person that ever showed that you cared. You're the first person that ever showed that you cared. Oh, thank you. So this stuff really does work. Now, I've shown you some Google techniques. How many of you would just like somebody else to do all the work for you? That's what I like. I like somebody else to do all the work for me. And you can do it, and it's free. Go get yourself a Google Alert account. Google.com/alerts. It's completely free. How do you use it? You go into Google, the regular Google search, you open up a browser window, and you conduct a Boolean search, a nice Boolean search. When you're happy with the results, you go into your free Google Alerts account, you paste your results in, and anytime Google finds new information, it sends you an email. So I have alerts set up on me, my book, my presentations, all of my clients, and all of my prospects. And anytime Google finds new information, it sends me an email. Now, many times I already knew that that information exists. But at least 3 times a week, I find something out about a client or about a prospect. I download the article. I forward them a note Sometimes I print it and actually write on the document. Sometimes I just forward an email. Joe, congratulations on winning that award. Sally, way to go on that promotion. Frank, I know you've been working on that new account for a long time. Congratulations on winning it. I send my clients and prospects notes that have nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. As financial advisors, as wealth managers, all too often, and please accept my criticism in the kindest manner, all too often the only time we ever bother to talk to our prospects or our clients is when we have something to sell them, isn't it? Or it's our time for our annual review. How about connecting with your clients? Now, you can't do this for all of your clients, I understand that, but we all have our best clients, our advocates. How about setting up alerts on those people, and when something goes on in their life, at their company, in their family, you send them a note. Congratulations. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So that was Google. Was that helpful to you at all? Now I'm going to show you the scary stuff. The invisible web. What percentage of the free and publicly accessible internet do you think Google even gets to? The free and publicly accessible internet. It's not 100%. 75%? Anybody say 5%? Well, if you say 5%, you're wrong. It's 4.8%. Google actually gets to a very small percentage of the free and publicly accessible internet. The rest is what's called the invisible web. Why is something invisible? Why can't Google vacuum up a web page? Think about it for a minute. How many of you have ever gone to a free website, but you have to register to access the information? Google can't register. And so if there's 100,000 articles here, they're all invisible to Google because they're on you have to register to access those articles. That's the invisible web. Let me give you a couple of my favorite invisible websites. Now, most invisible websites will have a premium component. They want you to buy something. I'm only showing you the free stuff. So everything I'm showing you today, you can access for free. Now you have to register. Remember, registration is free. You have to register, but once you register, you can access these tools. Let me give you a couple of examples. The first couple are company search sites. InsideView.com. I go get my free registration. I type in the name of a company, Keppel Tie Properties. Notice how I put it in quotes because I want to treat it like a phrase, and it gives me information about the company. The size of the company, how many employees, what they do for a living. And I can even get some of the key executives at the firm. Another invisible website that I like is called Data.com. What Data.com does is it's built a database by collecting millions of business cards from around the planet. Millions of business cards from around the planet get sent to Data.com, and they're building a massive database. So I can go in, type in the name of a company, PMG Asia Pacific. Notice how I put it in quotes. I can go in and get a little bit of information about the company, and it will pull me a list of every single business card it's ever collected. Completely free. Now, I have a surprise for all of you. Earlier I showed you Google News. That before you go meet with a company, type in the name of the company, click on Google News. And that works great if your prospect works for a large company like Allianz. Allianz, as we saw, has thousands of articles, news articles. But many of us are calling on small business owners or executives at much smaller companies. And they're not featured in the big newspapers that Google looks at. So I went in, I was looking for a company called Sri Krishna Sweets. Notice how I use my Boolean. I click on news, I get nothing. No articles appear. So that's frustrated me. So what I did is I built my own search engine, my own version of Google. I have one for the United States. And for you, I built one for all of Asia. It's called yougotthenews.com/Asia. And what I've done is I built a vacuum cleaner that vacuums up articles from every single newspaper, from every company in Asia, every country in Asia, and also Australia and the oceanic countries. Every single newspaper, the national newspapers, the regional, the local newspapers. So where Google had nothing, You can type in the same company name in yougotthenews.com/Asia and pull up 14,100 articles. And you can sort those articles by Asia news, Australian news, international business news, and even press releases. You don't get any of the websites trying to sell you anything. You just get objective, third-party articles about what's going on at that other company. So I actually finished this website about 2 weeks ago. Please feel free. It's completely free. Feel free to use it as often as you like. Feel free to share it with everybody. It's my gift to you. Hopefully, it'll provide you a lot of value. Thank you. Now, I don't speak Thai, but I think I got this correct. It'll actually search in your native language as well. So you can go in, type in, again, the name of a company, look at the Asian news sources, and you can pull up articles. So it doesn't have to be in English either. LinkedIn. How many of you are familiar with LinkedIn? LinkedIn is this amazingly powerful tool that allows us to connect and make the world incredibly small. It's a networking database is what it is. There are currently 270 million executives from around the world who post their resume, if you will. They post their biography on LinkedIn. It's people saying, come look at me. LinkedIn is an amazingly powerful relationship or sales intelligence tool. Let me give you the scope of LinkedIn. In India, there are currently 21 million executives on LinkedIn. In the Philippines, 1.7 million. Malaysia, 1.4. Singapore, 1 million. In Japan, nearly 1 million executives on LinkedIn. It's estimated that in these countries, a new executive is adding a LinkedIn profile every second of every day. So if your clients and your prospects aren't on LinkedIn today, they probably will be tomorrow. Now, most of us search LinkedIn incorrectly. We go into LinkedIn, we type in Karen Anderson, and LinkedIn says, wonderful, here you go. Have fun with your 1,214 Karen Andersons. Instead, what I do is I use my Boolean. So I was looking, I found out Rajesh was going to be my host. I said, I need to practice what I teach. I need to learn about this guy. I go in, I type in his name. Notice how I put it in quotes. And I put in one word from his company. And I can pull up his profile. And I can learn a little bit about him. Where he went to school. Where he used to work. What are the things that are important to him? What are his degrees in? What nonprofits is he involved in? What awards has he won? Even when his birthday. And what are his interests? I can then use this information to what? Ask great questions. Ask meaningful questions. And connect on a personal, a human level. Here's a neat little tool. I use this every single morning. I log into LinkedIn. I click on the Networks button. I click on my connections. And it tells me, out of all the people that I know, what are changes that are going on in their life. Now, why is this valuable to us in the financial services industry? There's a phrase that I use called money in motion. When there's money in motion, what does that mean? It might mean somebody's got a new job. They moved physical locations. They moved to a new geographic area. They have money that's moved. They need to find a new bank. Maybe they got a new job. They have some stock options. They have a retirement plan. Whatever it is, it's an opportunity for you to talk to them. How do we find money in motion? We connect with our clients, prospects, friends on LinkedIn, and let LinkedIn tell us when things are changing. Every morning I log in, I can find out who do I know who just got a new job, and I can send them a note. I can even go in and who do I know that has a birthday, and I can send them a note. 100% of the time when I do this, I get a note back from the other person, and oftentimes it says something like, Sam, thank you for taking the time to care. These little things make a big difference. In business, the little things mean everything. The little things mean everything. And it's the ability to connect with people in ways that they care about that help you build those relationships. Facebook, how many of you have a Facebook account? Facebook is a little scary. How many of you, when you opened up your Facebook account, read Facebook's 79 pages of legal terms and conditions. I'll read them 73 for you. By opening up a Facebook account, you agree to our privacy policy. You agree we can change our privacy policy anytime we feel like it, and we don't have to tell you. And that's what Facebook is today. Even if you're not friends with people on Facebook, if you search correctly, you can go look at their Facebook profile. I go into Facebook, I'm looking for Karen Anderson. I use my Boolean, and I pull up information. I can then sort the different Karen Andersons that are in there. And I can learn what's important to Karen. What books does she read? What movies does she like? What television shows does she watch? What music does she listen to? And who are her friends? So let me digress for just a moment. For those of you with a child with a Facebook account, one of the things that I recommend you do is in the upper right-hand corner of Facebook, there's a little lock. Click on it. Once every month or so, go in and make sure that your child's Facebook setting is set to the way you want it as a parent. I recommend that it be set to friends only. So only your child's friends can see their information on Facebook. The rest of the world can't see it. The reason that's a problem is anytime somebody clicks on something within their Facebook account, they watch a movie, they download a game, they could be unknowingly resetting their Facebook privacy back to default. Default means wide open to everybody. And so as a parent, I recommend you click on that icon, choose the link called See More Settings. There's about 50 individual settings. Go through them carefully and make sure that your child's Facebook privacy is set to the way you want it to be as a parent. Okay, so that was the invisible web. Now we're going to move on to the real powerful stuff. Who has the best information? Who's got the best information in the world? Now, I've shown you how you can use Google. I've shown you how you can use the invisible web. But who's got the best information? The answer is big companies. Big companies that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars to access subscription databases, list building databases, magazines. You've heard the names: Dun & Bradstreet, Value Line, Morningstar. Big companies paying hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to access databases. We get left with what we can find on Google. That doesn't seem fair, does it? Well, here's the good news. Every single one of you has access to hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars worth of databases completely free. Where? Here. How many of you have gone to your public library in the last year? And how many of you have gone to your public library to access business information? Every public library in the world subscribes to databases, expensive databases, list building databases, magazines, trade journals, all sorts of things. And here's the beautiful thing. For most of us, we only have to go to our public library one time. When you're there, they're going to give you a piece of plastic, a library card. And on that piece of plastic is a number. Go find your public library website. Here's mine in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Every public library in the world has a little link that says databases or resources. Click on that link and find out what databases you have access to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you have a library card. So for example, in Malaysia, they have a public library website, and they have a link for online databases that if you've got a library card, you can type in your number, and you can access the same expensive databases that big companies are paying big dollars for. You can use them from your own home or work computer free of charge. An amazingly powerful tool. So everybody, give yourself a hand. You are now graduates of 4th Hour University. Congratulations to you. And you know what I have to say to that? Who cares? So you're good on Google. How do we actually use this information to grow our business? How many of you feel like this sometimes? Right? There's too much information. The key is, how do we find and translate data into information? That's what I just showed you how to do. How to take data and translate that into information. How do we take information and translate that into knowledge? And how do we take knowledge and act on that? How do we use the 4th hour to grow our business? So we're going to go hunting for business. Now again, how many of you were in this business before Google, 16 years ago? Remember those days before Google? How did you get your prospects? How did you generate your leads? Well, if you're like many, you had the phone book, didn't you? They handed you a phone book. Let's call everybody in the phone book. It's a numbers game. If I call 10 people, I'll get 3 meetings, I'll get 1 client. And some of you still might do this today. 10 phone calls, 3 meetings, 1 client. I don't want that. That's called little rabbit hunting. Hunting for little rabbits. You know, a rabbit. I don't want to go little rabbit hunting. I want to make 8 phone calls, have 5 meetings, close 3 clients. I don't want to do little rabbit hunting. I want to go fat rabbit hunting. How do we find the right people? How do we find, so for example, Rajesh, I know your client base is doctors. How do we find the right doctors? Maybe your client base is a lawyer. Maybe your client base is a family business owner. How do we find the right people? We use the 4th R. Watch what I can do. Google, go find me an Excel spreadsheet. Now I'm looking for the different types of Excel spreadsheets, file type XLS or file type XLSX. Somewhere inside that spreadsheet has to be the word director, has to be the word Vietnam. 34,700 spreadsheets show up with lists of directors in Vietnam. Look at some of these. I can pull up the names, full contact information, including email address and phone numbers. These are just a couple of examples, the first 3 results I found. We're going to go fat rabbit hunting. We're not going to go little rabbit hunting. We're going to call on the right people. LinkedIn Advanced, amazingly powerful. The best fat rabbit hunting tool out there, and it's only getting bigger. Watch what I can do. I click on the Advanced button. Hey, LinkedIn, I want you to find me every vice president or president. Excuse me, every VP or vice president. That's their current job title. Located in the mining and metals industry in Indonesia. Now seriously, before LinkedIn, how many vice presidents in the metal industry in Indonesia do you think I knew? That would be the magic number of 0. But according to LinkedIn, there are 177 fat rabbits that perfectly fit my profile. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, Sam, you probably have a very big LinkedIn database. Maybe you just joined LinkedIn. You only have 5 connections. Guess what? If you ran that exact same search, you know how many people you'd get? 177. You'd get the same ones. Now, if you don't have a big LinkedIn database, you're only going to get a job title. LinkedIn's not going to give you the name. You're not connected with that person at the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd degree. They're only going to give you the name. And if you click on it, you know what LinkedIn's going to say? You're not popular enough, but for $49 US, we'll sell you the name. Well, I promised you everything I'm going to show you today is free. Let me show you how to backdoor into LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, if you only get a job title, here's what you can do. Here's a little magic trick for you. Take your mouse, highlight the job title. Right mouse click and do copy. Go into Google and do paste. Paste that job title in exactly as it was in LinkedIn. Magic trick, put the whole job title within quotation marks, and Google will give you the person's name. I can now highlight the person's name, right mouse click, copy, go back into LinkedIn, type in their name, and because I'm typing in their name and the first word from their company, LinkedIn thinks that I must know the person, and now I can see the person's profile. So using these techniques, you can pretty much access everybody on the entire planet with a LinkedIn profile. You can use these techniques to do a great job on referrals. I call it asking for referrals from a position of strength. You see, most of us ask for referrals from what I call a position of weakness. What do I mean? Let's pretend you're a client of mine. How long have we been doing work together? Oh, about 5 years. Are you happy with my service? Well, yes, I am. Might you know anybody else that could use my services as an advisor? That's called asking for a referral from a position of weakness. You sound weak when you say that. What I recommend is you ask for referrals by name. By name. There was a survey done in the United States of clients of financial advisors. If the advisor were to ask the client for a referral by name, what do I mean by that? Instead of saying, do you know anybody, you say, do you know Joe Smith? How well do you know Joe Smith? What percentage of clients would make that referral if asked for by name? 97%. What percentage of advisors ever ask for a referral by name? 2%. Think about that. How do we find out who people know? When you connect with somebody at the first level, you can see everybody else that they know. So Spencer Siegel and I are connected at the first level. We're connected on LinkedIn. I can then, now this isn't intuitive because there's no underline underneath these, so watch this carefully. When you're connected with somebody on the first level, you can click on their connections and you can pull up every single person that they know. Now, how am I going to ask for a referral by name? He knows thousands of people. I can click on the magnifying glass and actually conduct a Boolean search. So of all the people that Spencer knows, only show me the CEOs. And here's a list of the 244 CEOs that Spencer knows. And in fact, I can even sort those further by clicking on the advanced search. Of all the CEOs that he knows, only show me the ones that live in Chicago. Now I can go to Spencer and ask for a referral from a position of strength. Spencer, how well do you know Joe Smith? Oh, you know him well. Could you do me the favor of an introduction? 97% of your clients would make that introduction for you. Okay, so now I've built my lead list. Now I have to go research the company. I've got a meeting. So I'm going to do a case study with you where we're going to go search on a company. Now I'm going to take it to the extreme because I want to show you the types of information you can find when you know where and how to look. So I was in the airport, the Malaysia airport, and I had a smoothie from a company called Boost Juice. I thought, this is a pretty good tasting smoothie. I'd like to find out who the executives are at this company. I'd like them to become my client. So I go into Google, I type in Boost Juice, and I get a number of results. Now, of course, I'm going to go look at their website. So I click on the Boost Juice website, and what do I learn? I click the About button. And I look at their founder. Their founder is a woman named Janine. And Janine and Jeff founded the company called Boost Juice. So I write that information down. Now I click on the Our People link. And I notice their people, and one of them is a gentleman named Jeff. So I click on that, and I learn a little bit about Jeff. I learn that he has children. He and Janine have children. And that she's kind of fun when she's had a few drinks. So I write that information down. I also find out that Janine and the family likes surfing. So I write that information down. I go back into Google, into Boost Juice. This time I'm going to look at their Wikipedia listing. So I click on here. What do I learn? That they've expanded their stores internationally, all over Asia. Now they ceased operations in New Zealand, but they've expanded into Singapore, Indonesia, and most recently Thailand. So I write that information down. There's an invisible website called Manta. It's very much like Inside View. It's very much like data.com. It's just another site that I'll use. I type in Boost Juice, and I learn a little bit about the company. I learned that the company does about $28 million in sales, and they have about 800 employees. So I write that information down. I go back into Google. Now again, I've already looked at their website. I've already looked at their Wikipedia page. There's more than 500,000 results. What do I care about? I don't care about those 500,000 results. What do I care about? News. So I'm going to click the News button, and I'm going to pull up some articles on the company. That they're reintroducing Boost Juice to China. That they're one of the top franchises. That Janine was the former head waitress on David Bowie's yacht. Now, how cool is that? If I was meeting with Janine, what do you think we're going to talk about? Hey, Janine, before I meet with people, I like to do a little bit of homework. I want to make sure everything we talk about is relevant to what you care about, and guess what I found? In researching you, I saw that you were the former head stewardess on David Bowie's yacht. How does one go from being a stewardess on David Bowie's yacht to owning a $28 million company. I bet you she's got a half an hour story to tell me about what's made her so successful. I also found out that the company, Janine and Jeff, sold 70% of the company to a U.S.-based private equity firm for $70 million. How many of you would like to have Janine and Jeff as a client? I know I sure would. I go into my public library. I log into the Malaysia Public Library. There's a website, a database called ProQuest. I type in Boost Juice, and I pull up some additional articles. I find out that they're about to open a new store in India. I go into LinkedIn. Do I know any of these people? I type in Janine Alice plus Boost, and Janine doesn't have a very good LinkedIn page. It doesn't really tell me anything. So what do? I go into my advanced search on LinkedIn. I type in Boost Juice, Malaysia, and I want to find out, does anybody in Malaysia who currently works at Boost Juice have a LinkedIn profile? A number of results appear. Now, of course, I don't know any of these people, so I get a job title. What do? I take my mouse, I highlight the job title, I right mouse click, I do copy, I paste it into Google, exactly as it was in LinkedIn, and I get the name. R. Ishmael, the managing director of Boost Juice Malaysia. I highlight her name, go up into here, R. Ishmael plus Boost, and I pull up Soraya Ishmael, the managing director of Boost Juice Malaysia. I find out again where she used to work. She used to work at Accenture. She has a doctor of philosophy. She has a doctor of philosophy from the Imperial College of London and a master of engineering in chemical engineering, first-class honors. What do you think I talk about when I meet with her? How does someone with a PhD in philosophy start a smoothie bar? Tell me about that story. That's a great story, don't you think? And she's going to talk for a half an hour about her dream to be an entrepreneur and that she went to school to become an engineer, to become a philosopher, and it just wasn't her thing. She had an entrepreneurial bug, so her and her husband, they started this company. They had the opportunity to become the franchise owner in Malaysia, and they started. What a great story! And I can connect on a human level and show that I care. I go into Facebook. I type in her name. Now, her Facebook privacy was set very well. I can't find anything. I can't access anything, although I find her picture. It looks like a son, so I know she's a mother of a young boy. Instead, since I can't access her, I go see if there's a company Facebook page. I type in Boost Juice Malaysia, and I pull up their company website. Now, I'm going to try to backdoor to see if I can find our friend. So I do the Control F of find on my computer. I type in her name, and I see if she's ever commented anything. Now, because she seems to be going by two different names, I go back into Google, I type in her name within quotes, and then I do or the other way plus Boost Juice. So I've seen her name one way in LinkedIn, I've seen her name another way on Facebook. I type both names in within quotation marks or in all uppercase plus Boost Juice. So Google, go find me articles, go find me web pages where the name Soraya Rahim Ishmael exists within quotes or the name Soraya Ishmael, one or both of those, and the phrase Boost Juice must be in every result. I get a number of results. I click on some of them. Here she is again. Okay, what did we just learn? She likes to ski. We write that information down. Here's an article where she was featured. In 2009, Boost Juice Bars came to Malaysia under the leadership of Dr. Soraya Ishmael and Nick Turnan. They are the Malaysian and Singapore master franchise owners. She runs, cycles, swim, kickboxes regularly, and she's always encouraging her staff and customers to love life. What great information to have before I walk in that meeting with her. Here's a picture of Nick. I go into YouGotTheNews/Asia, Boost Juice plus Malaysia, and pull up a couple of articles. Since operating their first store in June 2009, Dr. Soraya and Nick have expanded to 7 outlets and now have a Boost Juice at the International Airport, the one that I ran into that I used as the premises for starting this entire research project. Now, do you really need to do all that stuff? No, of course you don't. If I was going to go have a meeting with Janine, if I was going to go have a meeting with Dr. Soraya, do I really need to do all of that? No. But my personal mantra in life is teach a person to fish, you feed them for a day, teach them to use the internet, and they leave you alone for a super long time. Because none of you are getting any work done tonight, are you? You're all going to be online spying on your friends, your relatives, your colleagues, the new people you met here today. In all seriousness, if you were going to go meet with any of the folks at Boost Juice as a potential client, do you really need to do everything I just did? Of course not. Of course not. Is it reasonable that before the meeting, 10 minutes before the meeting, you could do a Google search on the company? Of course it is. And look at a news article. And if nothing shows up in Google News, is it reasonable you could go to yougotthenews.com/Asia and pull up an article? Is it reasonable you could type the person's name in LinkedIn and look at their profile? Is it reasonable that you could type their name into Facebook and see what their interests are? Of course it is. I call it the 3x5. Spend 3 minutes trying to find 5 pieces of information. Spend 5 minutes trying to find 3 pieces of information. Now, if you have the opportunity to run the entire financial program, the entire benefits and retirement insurance program for Boost Juice, the company, should you do everything I just did? Yes, you probably should, because you probably got some competitors. So yes, sometimes you do need to do an hour's worth of research. But is it reasonable, like I said, if you were going to go meet with Soraya, that you could just pull up a couple of things and you could learn that she likes to run, cycle, swim, ski. She's got a son and her partner Nick and her now own the master distributor dealership for Singapore and Malaysia. Yes, you can do that. And then you can use that information to ask a meaningful, relevant question in that first meeting and show that you care. Let me leave you with a couple of gifts. If you like to reach me, I'm very easy to find. That's my business card. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to find me on Google, send me an email. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. Again, go to samrichter.com/Asia, enter in your email address. It's a very simple form that you can use on your mobile device. Enter in your email, and I'll send you the step-by-step instructions on everything that I shared with you today and more. We only had an hour and a half together. There's probably a 4 hours presentation worth of material in the guidebook that you can download for free. Now, before I leave, I'd like to do a psychological test with all of you. Can everybody please fold their arms? What hand's on top? Yell it out. Right hand or left hand? Right? Left? Okay, on the count of 3, switch hands. On the count of 3, switch hands. 1, 2, 3. Some of you can't do it, can you? You can't. Why? Because behavioral change is hard. Behavioral change is hard. Since you were a baby, you've been doing it this way. I asked you to just do it this way. Now the beautiful thing is, during the break, all of you are going to practice. And within a few minutes, you'll become an ambidextrous arm folder. What's my point? Google came out 15 years ago. There was no manual. You just typed in a couple words, stuff showed up. It was pretty cool. I'm asking you to use quotation marks. I'm asking you to use an or. I'm asking you to use a minus sign. All of you are amazingly successful financial advisors, wealth managers, and insurance agents. You are the top 1% in the entire planet. I'm asking you to do 5 minutes of homework before you meet with people. And I guarantee that if you do this, not only will you cut your searching time down by a massive amount, you'll start getting exactly what you want on the first page every time, but most important, you'll find the information on your clients and your prospects that allows you to connect on a personal, meaningful, value-based level, relevance, and you'll be able to show the other person that you care. I guarantee you, you're in the top 1% today. This will put you in the top 1% of the 1%. Use information to build relevance and show that you care. So will your business be better with access to better information? I started out today's program by telling you, or by asking you the question, have any of you ever had to make a sales call that would change your life? Change your life. That was the genesis of everything I'm sharing with you today. I had to make a sales call. And if I knew that if I was successful on that sales call, it would change my life forever. Now, I didn't know anything about the person I was searching. It was a woman named Karen Anderson. Some of you might be wondering, who's this Karen Anderson Richter keeps talking about? 16 years ago, I needed to find Karen Anderson. And this little tool came out called Google, and there was no manual, so I had to learn this stuff on my own. Because Karen Anderson's a pretty popular name. And after learning all of those techniques, I was able to pick up the phone one day and make this phone call to Karen Anderson, a teacher in Canada. Hi, Karen. My name is Sam Richter. We've never met before. But I've been doing a little homework on you. I've been researching you for the last couple of years, and you're not going to believe what I found. In the early 1960s, you gave birth to a baby boy, and that baby boy was me. And every technique I'm sharing with you today I used to find my mom and my sister. So this stuff really, really does work, and it will impact and change your life forever. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me today. I hope you found today's program valuable. Again, it's been an honor and a privilege to share the stage with you. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Another round of applause.